Oh, yeah.
Okay. Hello, everyone out there in internet land. Once again, welcome to episode 2 of the Portal Gun podcast.
Welcome.
I am here with, always, Isaac Mason.
Hey.
And this is me, Jeff Wilson, and we'll be talking about episode 5, the final episode of the first half of season 4 of Rick and Morty.
Oh, so sad.
Yeah, very sad, very disheartening. The episode was great, and we'll get into that here in a little bit.
Definitely.
But first off, what we see in the background here is not a Photoshop image. You might think this is fake if you saw it in any other capacity, but
Right.
It is very much real.
Pringles coming through with the promo.
Yeah, exactly. So shout out Pringles. I'm going to buy some Pringles now just because you guys are interested in things that I like. So, pretty sweet announcement that happening earlier this week. Pringles announced that it will be launching a new line of special edition Rick and Morty Pickle Rick Pringles, which is kind of a really catchy name to say it. Pickle Rick Pringles.
Pickle Rick Pringles.
Yeah. I also found out that it's going to be airing or dropping sometime around the Super Bowl, which is February 2nd. I'm hearing also a word that there's going to be a ad or some kind of commercial during the Super Bowl for these Pickle Rick Pringles.
I wonder what that'll be themed about.
So yeah, I'm really excited about it. I think there's also going to be some other collaboration between Pringles and Rick and Morty this year, which is exciting.
Okay.
Something more to look forward to, and looking for more, probably a little bit more like hilarious name drops Pringles flavors.
Something else random from now. When is the Super Bowl normally?
Yeah, so it's usually the first weekend of February or the first week of February. February 2nd is going to be the Super Bowl. It's going to be airing on Fox this year.
Okay.
Super Bowl 54. Wow, 54. Halftime show I think is J-Lo. So.
Oh gosh, I didn't even hear anything about it.
Yeah, so now I'm already out. So nothing else, you can watch the commercials and hopefully spot a Pringles.
Enjoy your Rick and Morty, along with all the other great commercials, of course.
Yeah, so
that's what's up. Any other news going on right now? I think, like you said, it was the last season of the first half of the last episode of the first half of the season. So they had never done this before. They never split up the season into two separate halves.
Yeah, I don't think. I mean, that's kind of normal, I think, in TV nowadays, where they kind of split up the seasons a little bit if they're going to be airing. And I think because they want to stretch out the content, South Park does it, Family Guy does it, where you take the winter break.
I remember it was a big deal that Harry Potter did it with the end of their series.
Yeah, the two movies being the last film. Twilight also did it.
Yeah.
It's also very, comparable.
Okay.
But so I think if you're going to have something that's really, really important to, I mean, we've waited 700 some odd days for this season to air anyway.
Yeah.
So I think if you guys are going to wait, you can probably wait like another month, 2 months, or it's going to be more than a month. Probably like 2 months, 2.5 months till it comes back.
Yeah, I'm wondering if they're going to save it for like summer viewing or going to leave it for maybe the fall run up. I don't know. I just don't know. How much of it do you think they have plotted out, or you think they'll resume all 5 like kind of like a weekly schedule like they did this time?
Yeah, I think that it's going to be like they have the season. It's already like the season's good. The season's already in the bag. They obviously have everything going on. I think it's cool when shows like South Park. I mean, they're creating an episode every week, so they're trying to pump out new material in 6 days or whatever it is, which is
incredible.
Insane. So there's no they might have dates scheduled, but there's no guarantee of what kind of content is going to be in there, which I think is pretty exciting.
It's ballsy. It's definitely ballsy.
Yeah, and have you ever seen the documentary that they have about South Park and how they write their episodes and how they create them in 6 days? It's really awesome. It's called 6 Days to Air. Look it up. It's on YouTube, but it's really, really, really interesting to see how they legit make an episode in 6 days. Now, it's not the most complicated show in the world, but
right, yeah, granted animation and all that, but still, it's absolutely respectable that the creative workhouse behind it keeps the content relevant, and I don't know, that I think that's what has kept it fueled for so long, is the relevancy of it every single season,
Yeah, and I think that's something that's commendable in itself, to be able to have. I mean, that's on 23rd season, so
yeah, that's amazing, dude.
Time. And I want to say they started doing the 6 days thing like back in season 12 or season 13, so it's been a good 8, 9, maybe even 10 years since they've been able to do that. And like for them to be able to just like, I mean, there's so much, even with like a simple show like that, there's so many things that go into making a show what it is, and especially a brand that you have to keep, like, because if it sucks, they're not going to be able to get renewed. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So they've kind of like grandfathered their way into it. And that's awesome. So yeah, I kind of dig that a lot.
That's what's up,
looking here, I kind of did a little digging here on the past season dates. Season 1 started in December 2013, ran through January pretty much. So they did let me see here. Yeah, December 2nd, 2013, and ran through pretty much every week, and they took a week off for Christmas until end of January 2014. And it looks like they took almost about a 2-month break. And they aired the last 5 episodes of season 1. So the first 6 episodes of season 1 were aired, and pretty much back to back in a month or so span, month and a half. And then they took a little break, and then it looks like season 2, if you remember it airing, that was in July 2015. And I remember us watching it, so I know that's really and that aired all the way through October, like so straight.
All episodes all on air.
Yeah, so that was episode 1 is in July 2015. But like I said, I remember us watching it because we had cable and we were able to watch it, and it was such a big thing for season 2 to come out, because by the time season 2 came out, the show was already a hit.
Gaining a lot, it was really picking up. Had already picked up speed,
Yeah, so
for some reason it feels like a fall show to me. Like Game of Thrones, I recall Game of Thrones I think always premiered in like April and ran into fall. But it's cool, kind of like some people expect sports and there are different seasons. When you watch a lot of shows, you're like, wonder what good stuff's going to come out this season to watch. And
it's kind of like weather, where you feel like sports weather, like it's football weather, and it's starting to become hockey weather when it gets colder. So like Rick and Morty definitely identifies to me as like a later on in the year kind of show.
I don't know about you, but for me, it's definitely a Lifetime movie network kind of like feeling. Yeah. So I'm always into that. Oxygen Network, Lifetime movie network.
Yes. Bravo, like all those are all good. Yeah, definitely. Hallmark Channel. So there's season 2, like I said, started in July and then went all the way straight through to October. 10 episodes, like back to back. They took like a 2-week break, it looks like, at the end of August, but was back at it every week. And then season 3 aired in April.
Okay.
Remember that first episode leaked on April Fool's Day, if you remember the third
I do remember
episode. It was like leaked, and the thing is, I remember when it came out, I remember when it dropped, it was online only or something like that. It was streaming for 24 hours, and I didn't want to believe it was real, so I didn't even look at it. I didn't even bother to look it up or like see what if the episode was even legit or not, because I just like, that's a joke. That's obviously a joke. Adult Swim played a joke. Haha. April 1st. The new season of Rick and Morty. I'll be sure to see
arguably, that's the best kind of April Fool's joke, is one that's not a joke.
And it was real. It was the real episode.
Right.
So April 1st, 2017. Notable though. So season 2 finished airing October 1st, 2015. And if you remember that long break, I mean that was a year and a half of no info or no episodes. Like, we didn't know what was going to come down the pike with that show. And then they dropped an episode unexpectedly on April 1st.
Right.
And I didn't even know it was real. And then it came back in July of that year, and then it looks like it went straight through. So this is the first time in the history of the show that we've had this lengthy break of episodes, which I kind of enjoy better. I kind of like stretching it out a little bit. It would mean that we'd get the show a little earlier, so it looks like we'd probably get the show starting in July and then wrapping up in maybe early mid-October if it's just the 10-episode season.
That sounds about right.
Which would be cool, but you know what? I kind of like it starting a little later and then
going
stretching out to the new year. Yeah, so you can kind of have something to look forward to once the new year starts.
Right.
So I'm gonna guess probably mid-February or probably mid to late February, so we'll probably either see an update about a new episode or might even see a premiere, get back to it. So did you have any?
No, that's definitely I agree with that. And what are you gonna watch in the meantime? What are you looking forward to?
I don't know.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I have to say Sunday nights. I guess I'll just have to try and squeeze what little football I have.
Right. I think the last episode of the HBO Watchmen series aired, so you can binge that now if you haven't watched it yet. I need to do that.
So something I need to get into hardcore is that I've heard so many good things about that show.
I've heard mixed things, but like it's one of those canonical things that like notoriously, I guess, hasn't been transitioned well to screen. I think, if I'm not mistaken. So sometimes when things are like that, there can be a lot of hype behind them, and you're always going to have the people that don't like it. But that's with Rick and Morty and anything. So
yeah, and I think a lot of people really love the movie. I love the movie. I love the Watchmen film. I think it was done really well. And I think there's always going to be that core group of fans that are like, "Oh, that's not what I thought. That's not what I thought would happen on screen." You know, I think people sometimes maybe think he misinterpreted the source material. So this new show might fit toward their headcanon, which is a huge term I like to use. You know, like you think about it like this is what I want to happen in my head. So it doesn't happen.
Everyone has one
sucks.
for sure.
So,
if you're a fan of anything, you have one, and that's like that's kind of the when you suspend disbelief to watch anything fictional, you start creating that kind of universal canon for yourself, and that's the wonder in like the explorative creativity, man. And speaking of that, it is a good segue into the episode 5 because it starts like no other episode could, and you have to suspend disbelief because they have to. Well, I guess not for the spaceship. It's Christmas time, so they tied in the Christmas theme. And Jerry is out hanging lights.
Yep.
And but before we get into it, do you want to go over the episode credits and name?
Yeah. So episode 5, as we know, is called Rattlestar Ricklactica. I had to make sure I said it right this time. Directed by Jacob Hare and written by James Siciliano.
Okay.
I'm not sure how to pronounce the name, but I think that's something else. With this episode here, Jacob Hare has actually done some directing and some storyboard stuff for Family Guy before, so it's not like he's like a stranger to animation.
Right, I got his IMDb pulled up off screen.
So
King of the Hill.
So he's done a lot of stuff with animating, American Dad, Family Guy. So they actually got a veteran.
I was gonna say I got really excited because recently I watched an American Dad episode, one of the new seasons, and Klaus is in the kitchen and there's a Destiny reference, bro. I almost died. I was like, it renewed my faith in American Dad, so now I got to go catch up on that. But
and I think that's a good show.
Not like the Cleveland show, fucking. Goddamn.
I don't know why that was even a thing.
What a bold move though to be the sole creator of a series and have 3 series on at the same time having to bring it out.
Seth MacFarlane, there's a couple people in the entertainment industry that I would follow into a burning building. Seth MacFarlane is one of them. Just people that you just trust. Like, you know what? He's never let me down. I've had so many hilarious memories of laughing at this show or laughing at a joke or like when I think about how funny something is, that just brings joy. And Seth MacFarlane is someone that I would, and he's so talented. That's the thing. It's not like this is some guy that sits around and writes whatever he wants. But I would follow him into.
I think Roiland and Harmon are becoming with Rick and Morty. They're writing that legacy for themselves. I think, and it takes a long time, but. Harmon has done. Did you ever watch Community by Harmon? Not to get too off on the side rail, but
I have. I caught an episode or two. I'm a big Chevy Chase fan, so that's something that he was always on.
And Gambino was in that too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so that's a really oddball out, but back to that about Jacob Hare, and then who was the other guy? James Siciliano. I'm not sure what else he's written. I didn't look that up to be honest.
I think that could be a topic for our next episode is if Roiland and Harmon had to have a spin-off show that was Rick and Morty related or involved in the Rick and Morty universe, what would it be? So that is a question for the viewers. If you have a suggestion about a really interesting spin-off, we'd like to hear. Shout us out. Get us in the comments. Get us on Twitter. Now's a good time to plug our Twitter handle.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's just so many things you could do with that. I think that's it's such an interesting character. So
let me pull up the Twitter handle as well. Maybe I can pull that up while we promote it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we finally got that up and Podbean, right?
Yeah. So we are everywhere that you can hear things.
Yeah.
So
if you want to, let me see. What is our handle again?
our Twitter handle is @PortalGunPod.
Portal Gun Pod.
Portal Gun Pod, or you can search Portal Gun Podcast.
There we go. Hey, I didn't follow us yet, but
in the Twitters. So Portal Gun Pod, we've got 0 followers, and there it is, right there. That's all it is. Boom.
There we go. We have 1 follower actually.
1 follow. It's you. You followed us. And... there you go. You're witnessing history. Our first follower, Isaac Mason. We're interviewing him now as our first follower. How do you feel?
Shameless self-promotion, man. I've waited for this moment to be the first follower of something that was going to be really, just huge. I know it.
Boom. There it is. Get it on the ground floor now, folks. Now's the time. So
we're going up here in the Portal Gun and down and all around.
Yes. So
right on.
So back to the episode here. So the guest stars, Keegan-Michael Key returns as also spoiler. If you haven't seen this episode,
we forgot to do spoilers.
We're going to go in great detail about things that are involved in this episode, theories that we've seen in the episode. So please don't feel like you have to keep watching because you haven't seen the episode. Please watch it and then come back and hang out and we'll talk about it. But
we're not sponsored by Google, but if you do want to watch it, you can buy standard definition or high definition episodes on the Google Play Store. It's the only place I have found that you can buy the episode of the show as it comes out, whichever episode you want. So well worth it in my opinion.
Affordable too, right?
You can buy the season for like $15, I think, standard definition. Otherwise, it's like $2 and some change after tax per episode. Well worth it.
The Blu-rays cost $30 in retrospect, so
right.
The most cost-effective. If you want to wait till Netflix or Hulu, you might be waiting for a little bit. So
right, my piracy loophole was we have DirecTV and I have an online portal and you can watch live TV on Cartoon Network. And I screen capped it, but I missed the intro, so I have episode 5 except for like the Jerry part in the beginning, which is what we're about to talk about. So
Yeah. So as I said, we'll get back into the episode. Keegan-Michael Key, Schleemy Pants, who is the time. I don't know if you call him a time cop, but
they're in the fourth dimension.
Yeah, pretty much the time watchers or something like that. And I think they appeared for the first time in season 2, episode 1.
Okay.
Was the first appearance of them, and I'm glad to see them back because those are some of the funniest characters I've ever seen. I just think it's hilarious. I love their design, and Rick calls them the testicle monster.
Yep.
And so it's all good. So yeah, I like their cameo. I like their.
I'm glad to see another reoccurring person. Like we talked about last episode, who else was going to come up this season, and sure enough, in the next episode we got somebody that we didn't even come to mind.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, all good stuff. What did you initial thoughts about the episode? What did you think?
I thought it was really awesome. Well, at first, actually, that was just a random response. It was really awesome after giving it a lot of thought, and I think I watched it like 2 or 3 times. First watch, I was a little preoccupied and I wasn't impressed because of the whole it was like an 8 or 10 minute bit with or maybe it was like 5 to 7 minutes. With
it felt like a long time.
No sound, no dialogue at all. Just but if you followed it, there were a lot of hidden Easter eggs and so much attention to detail. And we talked about Rick Explained last week, and the guy who hosts that has another thing, and there's been a lot of talk on Reddit and stuff of just how much detail they put into like the backgrounds of representing this random snake planet and stuff.
Yeah.
But right off rip, I liked that it was a Blame Morty episode because he's like, I just bragged about him being kind of on his high horse this season, and then he goes again and doesn't listen to one of his elder figures and kind of respect their authority and when they tell him to do something, and lo and behold, this whole episode happens.
Yeah, I agree with all that. I think that when I first saw the preview for the episode and it was them outside of the spaceship, Morty gets bit, I honestly did not have very high hopes about it. I was just thinking like, oh, okay, well, that's random enough to start, any
adventure,
yeah. So I'm like, cool. So it's gonna be something else different. But then when it turns into like Jerry is floating for like hours, and then like Morty has a black eye, we don't know why, and he has to go back in time and do this. And it's just like once it gets more in detail, I became a fan of it, and like I said, is this between this one and pretty much the highest con event, like, are my top two favorites from this season so far. I loved that, and I guess sometimes if you drag out the joke too long, it really doesn't sit well with me personally. Like, I understand that's like that might be some person's type of comedy that they like watching or whatever like that, but like sometimes if the joke keeps going for me, I'm just like, all right,
which I have to call back to us crediting Seth MacFarlane, dude. Some episodes of Family Guy, I'm like, bro, this is like 45 seconds into this bit now.
Stop wasting time. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but that's what it is sometimes.
Yeah, and I think for some reason the idea of this snake planet and everything that they were doing in this planet was interesting enough to keep it going for as long as it was, and snake jazz and all this other stuff that they pulled from that planet, I think is interesting enough to keep it going. Like, I'd almost go as far as saying I would watch an entire episode of just the Snake Planet, but no dialogue, but just hissing, because I just think that was really funny to me, and everything that they did for the details, like you mentioned, is so over the top, and that's really what that's like a testament to the show. That's over the top. So
yeah, a little Easter egg that I discovered in the beginning there, when Jerry, after Rick gives him the floaty shoes, right? He tells Siri to set that timer, and Rick says it's going to last 10 hours, and he tells Siri to set a timer for 9 hours and 50 minutes, and she responds back, okay, playing the
Beatles. Oh, yeah, dude.
And
that's so funny.
I figured out that's because the Beatles' collective discography in length is 10 hours.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah, I thought that was.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
that's
like what?
See, I didn't even think. I just thought, I'm like, wow, that's a joke on how dumb Siri is.
Yeah,
Siri
but cleverly written. Yeah, and I love how they put those things in there.
Cool, yeah.
But I didn't fact check it and didn't wiki cross reference it, so it was just I could be passing on
bad theories.
Snake oil salesman. But
Rick and Morty bad theories. This is our podcast. Yeah,
right?
So but that's really funny though. Yeah.
Let me change the background here so we can get some pictures. There we go.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Yeah. So what are some other notes? Just getting off the intro of the episode. They have to change a flat tire in space, and that was what was ironic to me, because like it did have nothing to do, like, unless you think about technology like cross-referenced within itself, like, and there's no reason that the space propulsion part of the jet or of the spaceship wouldn't work because the tire was flat. So you like, back to suspending disbelief. But lo and behold, they end up doing that. Morty crawls out, and I love how there's no room in that spaceship, but they somewhere have spacesuits.
Yeah.
They put them on there. And sure enough, the snake rolls up and also has an astronaut suit on.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too. I was watching. I'm like, wait, is the snake gonna bite him through the space helmet? Like, what is it?
And that's crucial, yeah.
And then I looked closer, and it looked like it had some kind of fang attachment to the helmet bubble or whatever, that it like actually got to sneak through or something like that. So yeah, I thought about that too, and I'm like, that's interesting. And then so that
it's crazy you say that, because it took me a moment when I watched it. I didn't consider how the fangs came out of the helmet, but I did after that consider what happened to the snake, and like it cracked its helmet and flew away, and then Rick grabbed the snake and pulled it back into the ship, and the next cut is them inside of the ship, actually, I think. And you can see the snake on the dash there, and all of a sudden, like, Morty literally starts going into, they realize it's pretty bad. And it's all implied that like, what they do say doesn't really explain what they're doing, but what happens while they're in there is Rick just has a system in the spaceship that assesses the snake and where it's from, and an anti-venom for it, and it spins that shit up. But there's a funny joke about Buzz Aldrin. He calls him Buzz Aspirin. He's like, no, Advil. And it's a female snake. And he pulls up all that, and really that like, initially that projection onto the spaceship screen was an initial like 30-second window into the rest of the episode, because it showed the army and advancement of this snake planet. So that was kind of cool, and that's the intro to Snake Jazz. But one thing I really love, like, I don't know what I want to call this segment of the week, because there's definitely one, at least one every episode. It's like the intellectual moment of the week, where like if you bother to pay attention and if you don't understand it, discover it, and actually, you can actually learn something in the show. And he says that's like a Jeff Foxworthy joke. He's like, I didn't write down the whole joke, but he ends the punchline with a Type 0 civilization neck. And what that means is there's something called the Kardashev scale, and it was developed. Let me open this link right quick. PayPal, Wikipedia wants me to donate right now, and I feel bad that I'm not.
But we all do,
right? Because I use it so much. But it was developed in '64 by I think a Soviet dude. And basically, we're a Type 0, and a Type 1 planet is one that can harness all of the energy of its star. So there's really a lot of like factual, physical kind of physics and science to that reference, but they cross it with a Jeff Foxworthy joke, and it makes no sense. But it's still like really, really awesome writing and just weird references, and what's what I love about the show. So I thought that was cool. But then Jerry tries to go and show off, and like you said, he ends up floating in the air, because I slowed that part down too, and he doesn't even trip or anything. The shoe just comes off. And he tries to see
only Jerry can mess up wearing shoes. Yeah,
exactly. He's like, oh my god, we have to go get Jerry.
Yeah.
But they think he's like kind of Nazi or racist, because he's like, white man can't jump or whatever.
Like,
so cringy.
Yeah. Now you think about it, that's kind of like an outplayed reference. So like,
of course,
Jerry is like trying to be topical and trying to be like relevant, but it's like, dude, that is still like years behind.
And then he's like, I just got this power, and I think he's a Nazi. So oh man, but that's when it kind of gets into it, and then but the thing is after it all happens, they pull in the garage, and Rick was like, look, I know you're really torn about this snake thing, because that's what I kind of didn't understand. Like, by killing the space snake, is that how the whole civilization would have been? Like, I don't understand the link in the snake extinction with just Morty getting bit, because they didn't really do anything else.
Yeah, so what I was thinking of doing, or like what I was thinking of what was happening here is like, because he tried to replace the snake, and because of the replacement snake that he found on Earth, that kind of gave them they have like.
But before that, like when he first like talked about them being extinct, I was like, what the fuck? But that's why he went and did that, so they would. But that's implying like if we would have never went to space, we'd be extinct. So that's something I don't want to overthink in the plot line in order to poke holes in it. But it's one of those things you just got to roll with in the episode. But like you said, he does feel bad about it, and Rick says, so I'm gonna go hang out inside. Like, he doesn't want to talk about it or anything.
Yeah,
I love that. But
he's like, I know you're really upset, so I'm gonna go ahead and void you for the rest of the day. Like that. Yeah.
So then Morty does get to feeling bad because he didn't listen to his grandpa. He got bit, extinguished the whole planet of 19, and they reference 19 billion snakes on that global war, and it's over snake racism. And he makes a funny joke about that shit. But he goes into the pet store and picks a snake, and then takes it home and Sharpies it, puts it back in the broken spacesuit, steals Rick's ship, which he's never done before.
Yeah.
Morty makes a ballsy move in the name of doing something within his own interest, but it's like for, it's not like Rick's Adventures where it's like mostly for personal gain. It's like it's out of like a conscious I don't know, not betrayal, but he wants to redeem himself from this thing he got himself into. So he does that, and once he throws the snake down is when the whole expose of the episode happens.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that it's really funny. I just read online that as much as like Harmon and Roiland hate time travel episodes, and this has so much. Yeah, I've heard in quotes that they just don't like it because I think that's just easy. That's easy to write. You know what I mean? That's easy for everyone to just put it. You could time travel anything. So
if it's not like the Marvel universe, if you don't have established rules set up within the universe, then that automatically makes the plot less believable, because the more crazy things that characters do, the less believable it becomes. So you have to teeter that line of believable and unbelievable.
Yeah. So I think that for them not wanting to do any kind of time traveling, that this is a lot of time traveling.
It ended up being deep. Yeah, it ended up being like a cut. It was, like I said, I had to watch it. I definitely didn't understand it on first view. I didn't really get the content of the episode until I watched it again and really thought about the time travel and how they interfered with themselves, interacted with themselves. But let's see. So I wrote a really short summary of that whole snake bit. So it's like he tosses the decoy snake back on the planet. The snake lands in the ocean, but the snakes on the baseball diamond see it falling, like some kind of astronaut falling back into space. Then they cut to a news article being written about it, makes newspaper headlines. It shows him on the White House stage, and then he hisses at the audience and is escorted off stage like he made some kind of comment.
Yeah.
And then he's examined by a rattlesnake doctor. And Rick says in the beginning that it was a female snake, which I overlooked. But they examine the rattlesnake, and Duke is on the phone. They go to a random professor, and he's in like a trench coat, and then that professor is escorted to the snake pentagon, an underground lair. They're in like an underground enclosure. So the earth snake that Morty threw hisses at the people in the room, and they hiss back, or vice versa. They record the audio sample and do something weird with it. I didn't understand that.
Yeah, I think they're just trying to like analyze it and then like copy it, like it's some kind of weird, different. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because after that, they go back in the room and then they bang.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But that part was necessary in order to set up like another cut later when they reference it. But after the snakes bang, that's the end of that scene. And they cut back to Rick making a joke about Jerry having an affair, which is really bad. It's such a sad burn.
And they laugh like so hard.
All of them.
Yeah, maybe he's having an affair. And then just like everyone's laughing.
Ridiculous.
God, poor Jerry. No, how could Jerry screw up wearing shoes? And
then
found out.
The other thing that comes up shortly after that with Jerry is a Christopher Walken bit written to this episode. Did you catch that?
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of cool because I've never seen the movie Click with Adam Sandler, but when he plays a voice sample in the beginning, to me it sounds like Walken, and then later in the episode he references it when he pauses Beth, I guess.
Yeah.
So I thought that was
like
kind of.
It was like the voice style was Christopher Walken or something.
He's like Walken gave me that after the studio recording session. But then he talks to Jerry, and somehow Rick and Jerry are establishing a more formidable relationship. And I don't know if it's because Rick's on thin ice at home.
Yeah.
Or he really feels bad for the guy, because how can you not, the way they portray him?
Yeah.
So he really does, they portray Beth as trying to save Jerry out of pity. When Rick pauses Beth, it's more of out of not caring, because Rick doesn't care about anyone or anything.
Yeah, exactly.
But they really portray it that way so that Rick can save his ass, and it's almost like Rick likes saving other people and doing things in the name of that, but it would never come across as such if I don't know, if Rick had the choice. But another thing I wrote down, not to keep rambling, but he pulls out this thing, and there's something in his garage that creates a little mini DNA replication of him to talk to her. And I was like, what the heck? I didn't. What are the other names on it? I think. No, I didn't write what else was on it, but it just had a bunch of them. And then it reminded me though of the Unity episode where he pulls a little thing out of the storage thing and unfreezes it. It looks very much like the same kind of weird DNA-based genetic experiment.
Yeah, and I think like we might see more things like that about him. That like, okay, Rick has all these little tools and like tricks that he does to like just make him seem like not terrible of a person, or like he's not totally messing up something.
Right.
Like the only reason he had that going was that he didn't upset Beth, because Beth was already upset, and she was like, well, if you're not going to help, save Jerry, but Jerry didn't want to be saved. So it's not like he couldn't tell her that.
And Jerry was trying to redeem himself this episode. He really didn't want help, but still in the end needed it. And that's another really well-written thing, that everyone kind of does need help sometimes.
Yeah, and I think Rick is like, I really tried to get Jerry's help, but he's not taking it. Like Jerry's dumb enough to not take the help.
Yeah.
Because he wants to try, but if he dies or something happens to him,
then it's on Rick.
Yeah, exactly, because it was his fault in the first place that he's got floating shoes.
Right, yeah. Which
shoes that keep him grounded, yeah. So,
and there's another jab at Christianity too, because with the Santa joke in the beginning, and he's like, "I wasn't born into it," whatever. Exactly, and he's like, "I think this is more impressive than walking on water." So they take a lot of jabs at like Christianity, at least. I haven't noticed any other jabs at like a lot of other major religions, but I think it's I don't know if it's statistically a mostly American majority audience, but you can tell that I think either Royland or Harmon was raised Christian and has some views on it, that it's like there are stereotypes to religions the way there are races, but at least but making fun of them and joking about them is the only way to fully understand them.
Yeah. Do you think that Harmon and Roland, are they actually like scientific people? Like, are they into science enough to have these like strange references into the episodes? I
love that about Rick and Morty and about Destiny, because like Destiny is they're both whole pieces of content that only physically exist because in Rick and Morty is probably at least a team of 50 to 100 people, and then Destiny you get into game development, you get into the thousands, and it's like the more detail you put into something, the harder it is to create. But yeah, I don't know. It's really respectable when they're able to remain scientific. Like if they are scientific, I'm trying to gather all my thoughts. Hang on.
I feel like them already starting off a science fiction type show with a lot of technology. I mean, because it's something that you can write in, but like I think maybe like they didn't have to have that Jeff Foxworthy joke in there, but like it's funny, and if you understood it, it's even funnier. So it's like, okay, are these guys actually?
And I'm glad you said that, because what I was trying to wrap my head around was the collaborative effort of teams mean that you come to a round table with material, and then you all collectively decide on what's worthy. And when stuff gets written in, it's like, hey, let's write something about this. Let's write a bit about people being really selfish, but morally redeeming themselves in their mind by actually helping other people subtly, or whatever you want to write it all about. And then someone's like, yeah, let's throw in a Jeff Foxworthy joke too. So you wonder if the writers are the ones that come up with the intellectual parts, but I don't like to. I like that you asked me that question, because it makes me realize I don't like to judge whether I think people are smart or not based on like just outside glances, because sure, the show is created, they're credited in the intros, but we really don't know who it is. So to make those kinds of broad brushstrokes of accusation or what have you, you're kind of pinholing yourself into what you expect out of that person. And if that's what you do with like a creative kind of media that you consume for entertainment, you're setting yourself up for disappointment, which is why I think, to me in part explains all of the internet culture around outrage, because people really do expect these things from these genres and these titles, and it doesn't matter whether they're smart or not. They're the dudes who run the op, and that's what's awesome. Yeah. But
if they can create the content and it's solid, it doesn't matter what background they have.
I'm glad whether they bring the comedy or the science. I'm just glad that they get the people together to bring it to me.
Yeah, there you go. That's exactly.
I'm glad. Yeah, I'm sorry, dude. That was a really whole roundabout.
No, yeah, I thought about it after we talked about how deep, and some of the jokes are that deep sometimes. Some of them actually take.
To me, psychologically, dude, this episode takes. This series manages to take so seriously the most fragile parts of life that we make fun of but are also afraid to talk about. And it's like when you cut, I literally, a grown-ass man, I cried at the end of the Unity episode, and I tell people that, and I'm not ashamed to, because when you write relatable feelings like that into a show, it's what makes you a fan, dude. It's amazing.
Yeah.
But back to the episode, I guess.
Yeah.
Jerry manages to get back to the ground with a boulder somehow. Doesn't he crash into a tree?
Yeah, and he grabs onto it, and then he goes into that bar and couldn't bring the rock into your bar. Can't bring that boulder in here. Yeah,
he's like,
that boulder out of here.
Why do you have so many ceiling fans?
Yeah, exactly.
I went back and counted them. There's 6 ceiling fans.
And it gets floated, it gets banged around up in the ceiling, and it's so funny, dude.
And then they throw him outside, and they're like, "Take your girlfriend," and they throw the rock back. Then they cut to Summer's life, a little snapshot of Summer. She's chilling with a popular girl and then a nerdy girl, which I think, dude, like, subtly, not to get too far off tangent, but that's another subtle thing written in, and like, this is how teenage girl culture is. They hang out with chicks that are competitively attractive, and there's one ugly one, and there's a dynamic in the group. And I think when you write, like, that's the argument about stereotypes. Like, stereotypes exist because they're partially true. When you write these things into a show, they get that shit across. And they're all bonding real quick, and Summer puts on.
What do you have there? It's snake jazz. Yeah, and then she explains to him how they got snake jazz, and they don't even bat an eye. That's just another thing.
Except the other girl, and she's like, she clowns her for. She's like, what she said. Nancy questions the story, and she gets bashed for it. She's like, later we need to talk about your weight and your clothing.
Nancy. Yeah. So Nancy's been in the episode before. Been in the show before. Yeah, she was kind of the nerdier girl at the Rixie business. The party episode where they have the party in season 1. Yeah. But she hasn't been in episodes since season 1, I'm pretty sure. So
she reminds me of Patty on Family Guy.
Yeah, it's just like
Meg's friend. Yeah. It's so funny. I don't know if it was her hairstyle or like how it was portrayed, but I don't know. So yeah, after that, then they get to the action of the episode, which is also has a number of references. So Morty's whacking it in his bedroom. And when the first snake busts through the door, and he's about to kill him, another snake spawns, and then it just really goes into like kind of mayhem with the extent that the snakes are going to. Now I don't understand, what were the snakes trying to do? Just kill Morty? But what would that have done to save the whole overall plot line?
So I was thinking, like, if in the snake's mind, because they obviously found out something must have gone wrong with their own astronaut snake. Yeah. So maybe killing Morty would have prevented that snake from dying, or something else, or something. I don't know. I was trying to make sense about it.
That must have to do with the time cops, which is why they were able to overall erase it. But
and they all kept coming back to just kill themselves, and just kept I
don't know. That's the thing. It implies so many hypotheticals, but there's a little. Well, let me change the background again because I have a good picture of some stuff that if whoever's watching out there, this is Snapebraham Lincoln. Whatever. Some really funny references. Let me see. There's a robot. So they do all of that, and then eventually they drop into the garage scene when they get home, and Morty's like, or Rick's like, quit going on about the snakes. And I guess this little weird-looking guy is a Terminator. For the part of that episode that references the Terminator. Yeah. And
he's in the intro, too. I'm glad we finally know what this is about.
Future Snake Planet or whatever. Yeah. So, yeah, that's another thing. It cuts 2 different sequences, and I love shit like that. But, let's see. Then, like, Rick basically hits Morty with some kind of needle or whatever, because he got bit there in the garage. Yeah. And he throws up a bubble. And he has anti-venom still. Like, they're not in the ship or anything, but he still manages, like, why does Rick just have that on him? Yeah. I think he clowns him for not staying in the car again right there. And, like, he hits on that, like, 2 or 3 times and even ends the episode with it. And it's funny to me that that's what they, like, that's one of the things they harped on multiple times. And like I said earlier, they mentioned something about 19 billion snakes. When they cut back from the commercial, it said that 17 billion snakes died on June 21st of 2026. So that tells you that literally most of the snake population was wiped out in that future instance. And that was the war between the snake and the machine. Yeah. But then that's when the time travel Rick and Morty come in, and they get to the snake Pentagon, and Rick gives a snake legs, and that's really funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. But all of that is. Let me see. Slippy. Oh yeah, that's when the part where they mated came back into play, because they came in and they're like, we have to kill your offspring, and the other one comes in and is like, no, you can't. You have to seed the planet or whatever.
Yeah.
And little things like that, I didn't get, because honestly, dude, I'm not ashamed to admit it, but I don't boast it. I haven't seen a lot of popular culture movies. Like, I haven't seen Forrest Gump, I haven't seen Terminator. I haven't seen a lot of really popular movies that are historically referenced. I understand them culturally and socially referenced, but I don't think it takes away from my understanding of things once I grasp them.
Yeah, a lot of the Terminator flicks you can go without seeing, honestly. So,
yeah, and
essentially, if you get the idea, it's good enough. Yeah.
And as a content and media person who considers myself a consumer, it's cool to say things like that for yourself. So whoever, my current girlfriend wants to watch Forrest Gump with me, and we still haven't yet. So I get to watch Forrest Gump for the first time, and you only get to watch Rick and Morty once for the first time, and each episode for the first time, and that's kind of the hype in it all. So I don't know. I thought that was why upon a first view I didn't put much stock into the episode, because I literally didn't understand what they were referencing.
Yeah.
But yeah, they go and do all that, and then they really get back to kind of solving the episode and wrapping it up, which is where the click references happen, and let's see. But talk about the time travel, Rick and Morty, and what do you think about that? Like how they interacted with the episode.
So I feel like if I slowed it down and worked it kind of scene by scene, I could figure out where they were going with it. On the surface, I didn't question it. I didn't question the legitimacy of the plot with the time travel.
Okay.
I can kind of see how it got out. It got confusing. It's kind of like a lot of people when Avengers Endgame came out. There was a big time travel element that didn't seem to make sense on the surface, but you kind of just have to think about it, and then once you start thinking about it, it kind of takes it away from the movie. So okay. It's kind of more like let's just enjoy it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Like you said, when you overthink stuff, you try to poke holes in the plot.
Yeah, and I do want to go back and examine it. Probably this week. I'll probably do that since I have 2 months or so since the next episode or something like that.
Right.
So
plenty of time.
So I'll look at that some more. But I think, they're, like I said, they're smart guys. They're not going to do something that's totally dumb without having some sort of explanation. And I think even in the smallest form, even Rick saying I have something to help prepare for that or something like that. You know what I mean? I feel like he's always got these tools that kind of negate any kind of plot hole. So I don't feel like they would ever deliberately write a bad plot hole in an episode like this, especially the mid-season finale, if they knew that was coming down the pipe.
Yeah, something that couldn't be traced back or whatever. And that's
so I feel like
let's see. They do cut back to. I was going to see if you caught this. They cut back to the past. That's kind of where they go with it. They get in there and they're trying to stop it all, and the time machine isn't even built.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, I don't think it's referenced. The other Rick and Morty aren't referenced in the episode until that moment when they come in and give themselves. He gives. I wrote it down. They give them a book and 2 devices in order to travel somewhere else.
Yeah.
And they go to 1985. They go to Snake MIT. And another thing to double check that scene, I don't know if you caught it or not, but I was reading, there's a Back to the Future Snake poster in the one room. So that was really funny. And they do that, but apparently the book that they gave them had the technology somehow, either to time travel or to accomplish the overall Snake's goals.
Yeah.
And but then they go back to Ford's Theater. And I don't understand what all that was about. And they do the Nazis and all that stuff. And then snakes start popping up and killing all of each other. And that was kind of where I got lost after I was trying to further actually assess it. But it seems like they had to do all that. But then they get back to Earth, and snakes are still everywhere. But Rick's like, don't worry about it. We took care of it all. And Summer and Beth are in the front yard slaying a bunch of snakes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I like that they were involved in this episode too. In that sense, like they could actually do stuff.
Yeah.
In the episode like that, so I like that a lot.
And then right after they actually eliminated the snakes and they all went away, Jerry was on the roof and he had the lights on.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I thought that was kind of weird, but yeah. And we talked about Sleamy Pants, and they basically just go back and they kill some prehistoric snake.
Yeah.
And that negates the whole episode. So for me, when we're talking about writing, it's like, okay, it was a full episode, but it was negated in one 15-second scene.
Yeah.
And that you know, you can be salty about it if you want to, but you can appreciate all the other aspects of the detail in the episode if you choose to, which is what I choose to do. And there was a really funny snake about a joke. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a funny joke about a snake that Rick had about the Ouroboros, which is like the
snake eating itself. Yeah.
Yeah, which is actually an ancient alchemical sign for like the cyclical nature of the universe and how it like if you are into philosophy or chemistry or alchemy as it's known, look that up because it's kind of cool. So. Little stuff like that was another good payoff. But then the episode kind of closes, and what else? They confront themselves when they get back in the house.
Yeah, the post-credit scene is hilarious.
Yeah,
and they just explain so much, and I'm glad that they actually went back and did that. And once again, it all wraps up to why didn't you just stay in the car? Like, it's just so perfect.
But do you, like I won't ask you about what the event is or what the occurrence or whatever it may be is, but I know I do. I'm sure you do. I think a lot of people have something that they lay awake at night thinking about. If I didn't do this thing, how would my life be different? And as crazy as it is to write it about like the extermination of a snake planet, that is what keeps you up at night, to think about what if I did this thing wrong. I don't know what it was. Just because I said that, I was listening to NPR and it was some interview with a lady who only had one hand. She was like a children's author or something. I need to look it up and get her name because it would be cool to say right now. But what she said in that moment was like, people talk about making mistakes and how much they impact your life. She's like, yeah, if you make a certain mistake, it impacts you now, maybe not later. But if you accidentally cut your hand off, that's a mistake you gotta live with forever.
Yeah. Exactly.
So I thought it was weird that they did that, because it seems that they're hinting that Rick and Morty and Jerry all have a little bit softer sides, and they kind of need each other as a family unit. And that's how they know how to live. And we still don't know anything about Rick's wife, which I want a lot. I want more on that, because I think Rick is who he is because of how he experienced what he experienced. Just like individuals are made in our lives.
Yeah.
Everyone has shaped himself. If it's not trauma, it's like success or influence or being born into it. People are shaped by their experiences, and we don't have a lot of information about Rick, but we're learning about Summer and Morty and Beth and Jerry. So yeah. I'm really excited. Do you have any idea where the next season or the next episodes could go?
No.
Me either. As I asked that, I realized I don't
good. Yeah, I feel good and confident about that.
Me too.
There are some definite plot points that could be explored that I think we should definitely explore in a later episode, since we have some time to kill.
We got to do the season review episode. Yeah.
Yeah, between now and whenever they air the seasons start airing again.
Right.
But I feel good that it's not something that can be told right now. It's not like a definite, like, oh, they have to do this and have to do this. Like, it's not like so thought out and precise that you can't like not guess it. So I kind of like having the open-endedness, and I like having like people, like I said, I mentioned earlier, having their head canon. I usually never have a head canon about anything that I enjoy.
Yeah, you really try not to. Yeah,
I really try and trust the writers and trust people that are involved creatively. Like, let's see what they have to bring, and you know what? that'll be cool.
Right.
So
Yeah, the dots are fun to connect if you have them visible to you. So when you reference whatever canonical universe you're in, it's cool to get them revealed to you through plot points and connections and future lines or whatever. But sometimes you just want to leave it how it is and be like, I know what I know, and that's what they told me. So I'm gonna leave it at that and trust them next time I see it.
yeah, exactly. And I have no problem doing that with a lot of the stuff. Like,
That's awesome.
these people were hired to do a job for a reason. Like, they're good at it.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Exactly. Yeah, that's awesome though. I'm trying to think about anything that I wanted to bring up in the episode but didn't. Have any of the just off the top? Have any of the current season's episodes referenced themselves at all? And that's something, I guess, as I ask, it makes me realize like how much of other seasons reference themselves. Because like I said before, now we're in season 4, we have a lot more to reference. But yeah,
I don't know. I think that I feel like this is a show.
It's almost like X-Files, you know, where it's like
Yeah.
it's in the same universe, but it's non-episodical.
Yeah, and I feel like it's almost like a show that's becoming a little bit more self-aware of itself.
Yeah.
And by that I mean like it might start calling back to stuff like that.
Because some people get mad. Some people get mad if you don't continue the storyline of something from another episode, or
Yeah.
you know, Star Trek always has part 1 and part 2s. Like sometimes you want to link multiple episodes. And have there been any part 1, part 2 episodes in Rick and Morty yet?
I think there've been continuing plot points, obviously, with Rick getting captured.
Okay, yeah, that's true. But that was season finale into the next season, right?
Yeah, and I feel like there have been kind of cliffhangers on that, like in that aspect. And interdimensional cable is another one that they've done 1 and 2, but like nothing really continuing. And like, I'm kind of okay with it in terms of like I like hearing about new adventures, stuff that like overall plot points are still being continued. This season, obviously, starting with like, okay, so Jerry is back, he's moved in. You know, we're still. It seems like Rick is still adjusting to that fact and all these other stuff. So I'm comfortable with like them having overarching plot points, but like the adventures themselves. I mean, it would be cool depending on how they did it, if they did it tastefully or not. But like I said, I'm cool with them having new stuff brought to the table every episode.
Yeah, that is what I like about Rick and Morty and it's unique to Rick and Morty, just like it is any other show that handles things in a bold way and arguably progressive. Because when you talk about the Twilight Zone, I love the Twilight Zone because every episode you know what you're gonna get, but you don't know what you're gonna get. And I feel like Rick and Morty is taking bolder new chances with linking episodes with seasons and taking completely new narrative plots. And I don't know. I definitely am excited, but I don't know. Well, I think next probably, I don't know when we're gonna do it, but we've got a season review coming up. I would like to try to get something to try to give away to somebody if we can get more than a few listeners and one follower. I'm our follower, but right now, if we give something away, I give it to me. So I'm down to give something away right now to our Twitter followers. But sure. If you want to follow us anywhere, the primary place would be Twitter. We would love to get something in the name of the New Year holiday spirit and give away. If this was a Destiny podcast, I have extra emblem codes to give away. So if you're a Destiny player and want some emblem codes, let me know. I think that was pretty good. Yeah, we're on like. As I check it, we're at 60 minutes. 0
All right. Very cool. Sounds good. Do you want to do? Let's do some shout outs real quick. Other the podcasts that you can check out. I'm not sure if there is a accompanying podcast for this most recent episode from Adult Swim. I don't know if it's up yet. I haven't looked. But there are plenty.
There is, I think. It's with the. Okay. I think it's. Oh, no, maybe not. No, the last one I'm thinking of, the channel is called Screen Rant. I know that. I don't have it pulled up, but Screen Rant and Rick Explained, I think is that the same channel? Or no, I know I read it in the title. But one we don't have in the notes is Screen Rant, and that's the one I've been gathering a little few of my Easter eggs from.
Yeah. So and I know that so there's that one. I'm not sure if that's been up for this most recent episode yet, but if not, there's plenty of content out there for Rick and Morty nerds like us. So the Squanch is a podcast that Wisecrack has going on, wisecrack.com. They're also on YouTube and the SoundCloud. Rickle Me This, it's a fantastic name. They're on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Rick Explained, we've mentioned a couple times here. They're on Podtail. Rick and Morty Minute is very, very, very cool, very interesting. They're on Facebook and also rickandmortyminute.libsyn.com.
And that is that's like on there. How long are their episodes, Rick and Morty Minute?
They're it's what I've seen, it's like 20, 25, 30 minutes.
Jesus Christ, ours is an hour. I don't know how they could do the whole episode minute by minute and it not be like 3. It could be a Joe Rogan podcast, dude.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So they upload mini episodes like that. Every minute is analyzed of every Rick and Morty episode.
If I did that, I would need a Joe Rogan format.
Yeah. I think they're still on. I think they're on. Last time I checked, they're on season 2, episode 3. Yeah, total erotic ass simulation.
Good one.
I think. No, that's not. That's the new episode. They're on.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's what it should be.
I don't know which one they're on, but either way, they're
just
really
Google
awesome.
them. Yeah, you know what to do.
They're cool.
Type it in the address bar.
Yeah, they have a cool format. They have a cool idea. Overly Animated also has a podcast, a Rick and Morty podcast. They're their own podcast network, but they have their own. And then obviously the Interdimensional RSS, rickandmortypod.com. Yeah, such a fantastic name for Rick and Morty fans too. So plenty of content out there for you to dive into. Plenty of content to keep you busy over the next couple months until we get some new episodes. In addition to some dope content you might see on this channel here. So yeah, man. Follow us on Twitter. Shoot us a comment. Let us know if we're awful.
Check us out. Yeah, we'll as we're trying to go, we'll try to link social media accounts and/or other places to find us and our content. I'm glad you guys are listening and watching. If you are, we really appreciate it. It's been really fun. We got to get together and do some live filming, maybe some more explorative stuff, because we're both kind of getting used to this, trying to start a channel and podcasting, and the more feedback you guys can give us, the better off we are to make more stuff for you. Yeah. I'm making it for us. We're making it for me. I'm making it for me. Because I literally, after I record it, I watch it, and I'm like, does that make sense? So if you guys like it, it really means a lot to us. Let us know. The constructive criticism is really appreciated. This has been the Portal Gun Podcast, episode 2.
Yes.
I'm Isaac Mason.
And I'm Jeff Wilson. See you in the next dimension.
Hey.